Why would a man reading a book in his own backyard make the neighbors uncomfortable? Why would a simple chair and a book be enough to spark a storm? Devon Wellington sits quietly in his backyard, absorbed in a well-worn copy of Advanced Corporate Strategy. The afternoon sun filters through the ancient oak trees of his modest suburban home, creating dappled shadows that dance across the weathered pages. At 45, he has learned to treasure these precious moments of solitude away from the corporate world's relentless demands and endless meetings. The neighborhood maintains its typical Saturday afternoon serenity, with the distant sounds of children playing in nearby yards, the gentle hum of lawn mowers, and the occasional car passing by on the tree-lined street. Devon adjusts his simple wire-rimmed reading glasses and turns another page, completely absorbed in a chapter about strategic market positioning, blissfully unaware that his tranquil weekend is about to become anything but peaceful. The rhythmic sound of determined footsteps on pavement suddenly breaks through his concentration. Devon glances up briefly, noticing a figure approaching but thinking nothing of it until the footsteps stop directly at his property line. Victoria Ashford emerges from behind the pristine white fence that separates their properties, a thick clipboard clutched in her manicured hands and an official HOA badge prominently displayed on her designer blazer. Her silver hair is pulled back in a severe bun, her makeup applied with military precision, and her posture rigid with the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. Her cold blue eyes survey Devon with undisguised suspicion and barely concealed hostility. "Excuse me," she calls out sharply, her voice cutting through the peaceful afternoon air like a blade slicing through silk. "You're violating HOA Regulation 15.3. Devon looks up from his book, his dark eyes showing a slight furrowing of his brow at the unexpected and aggressive interruption to his quiet reading time. "Violating what regulation exactly? I'm just reading a book in my own backyard. According to HOA Community Guidelines Section 15.3, no activities that compromise the aesthetic integrity of the neighborhood are permitted during daylight hours," Victoria declares with the practiced authority of someone who has memorized every rule and regulation. "And frankly, this particular area isn't meant for people like you." The final words hang in the warm afternoon air like a toxic cloud, loaded with unmistakable prejudice that neither the gentle breeze nor the cheerful bird song can dispel. Victoria strides purposefully across the invisible property line with her clipboard clutched tightly against her chest, her demeanor growing increasingly aggressive and confrontational with each calculated step. Her jewelry catches and reflects the bright sunlight as she moves, each piece carefully chosen to display expensive taste and establish her social dominance. Diamond earrings, a gold tennis bracelet, and a watch that costs more than most people's monthly salary all serve as silent declarations of her perceived superiority. "I am the duly elected president of this HOA and have lived in this exclusive community for exactly 20 years, she announces with the pompous authority of a queen addressing her subjects. "I have never seen you before in my life. Did you receive proper HOA board approval for your residency here?" Devon sets his book down carefully on the small table beside his chair, maintaining his naturally calm composure despite the woman's increasingly hostile and unreasonable approach. His movements are deliberate and controlled, reflecting years of high-stakes business negotiations where keeping one's cool often means the difference between success and failure. "I purchased this house 3 months ago through a legitimate real estate transaction and have paid all required HOA fees in full and on time," he responds evenly, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who knows he's done nothing wrong. "Here are my documents." He reaches into his wallet with steady hands, retrieving the official purchase agreement along with HOA fee receipts. Victoria barely glances at the carefully organized papers before dismissing them with an imperious wave of her perfectly manicured hand. "These documents are completely insufficient for our community standards. You need to attend a mandatory HOA board meeting, undergo a comprehensive interview with our management committee, submit to a background check, and demonstrate compliance with all 47 detailed neighborhood regulations." The sound of expensive dress shoes on concrete announces the arrival of Bradley Ashford, Victoria's son, who appears around the corner like an actor making his entrance on cue. He's immaculately dressed in a charcoal gray suit that probably costs more than most people's rent, with a gleaming Vice President HOA badge prominently displayed on his lapel like a military decoration. His perfectly styled hair and confident smirk radiate the same entitled arrogance as his mother's demeanor. He carries a thick, leather-bound violation book, which he clutches like a weapon of bureaucratic warfare. "Mother is absolutely correct in her assessment," Bradley declares with theatrical precision, his voice carrying the condescending tone of someone who believes his law degree makes him superior to everyone around him. Unauthorized settlement constitutes a serious and flagrant violation of established HOA bylaws and community standards. Unauthorized settlement? Devon's voice carries a controlled note of irritation, though he maintains his dignified composure. "I purchased this house through completely legal means and have all the proper documentation to prove it." Bradley flips through his violation book with exaggerated theatrical precision, making a show of consulting various pages as if he's accessing some sacred legal text. "A legal purchase doesn't automatically grant you community privileges or acceptance," he explains with barely concealed smugness. "The HOA maintains extremely strict standards for resident approval. And frankly, your particular demographic profile doesn't typically meet our established community standards." The carefully chosen words hang in the air like poison gas, their meaning crystal clear despite the lawyer's attempt to cloak his prejudice in legal terminology. Devon feels his jaw tighten involuntarily, a slight muscle twitch betraying his growing anger, but he maintains his dignified composure through sheer force of will. Elena Vasquez watches the confrontation unfold from her adjacent property, her heart racing with anxiety as she recognizes the brewing conflict. As a hard-working Latina nurse struggling to support her family on a modest income, she knows firsthand the crushing power the Ashfords wield throughout this community like medieval lords ruling over their serfs. She desperately wants to speak up for Devon, who has been nothing but kind and generous to her family, even quietly helping with her daughter's college tuition without expecting anything in return or making her feel indebted. But paralyzing fear holds her tongue captive. She's already been fined $2,000 by the HOA for non-compliant house paint colors, and she knows she can't afford to provoke their vindictive wrath any further. "I can assure you with complete confidence that I have every legal right to be here," Devon states firmly, his voice steady and controlled, despite the mounting frustration building inside him like pressure in a boiler. "Perhaps you should take some time to review federal fair housing laws before making such serious and potentially actionable accusations." Victoria's smile is as cold and calculating as a shark's grin, revealing perfectly white teeth that somehow manage to look predatory. "Federal laws? How quaint and naive. You clearly don't have the slightest understanding of how HOA governance actually works in the real world, do you?" Bradley pulls out his latest model smartphone with theatrical flair, making an elaborate show of scrolling through his contacts as if he's about to call the president himself. "I'm reporting multiple serious HOA violations, including unauthorized residency, falsification of resident status, and potential criminal trespassing to the appropriate authorities." Devon glances down at the book in his hands. Advanced Corporate Strategy. And his mind briefly wanders to the incredible journey that brought him from a poor kid growing up in the tough streets of Detroit to where he stands today. Those were years filled with scholarship applications written by candlelight when the electricity was cut off, working grueling night shifts at a factory to pay for tuition while attending classes during the day, then slowly, methodically building a technology company from absolutely nothing but determination and raw intelligence. He remembers countless similar encounters with prejudice throughout his long climb to success, each one strengthening his resolve to never let such ignorance and hatred define him or limit his potential. "You can call whoever you think is appropriate," Devon responds with measured calmness, though careful listeners might detect a subtle edge creeping into his previously neutral tone. But I strongly suggest you take some time to familiarize yourself with federal fair housing laws and anti-discrimination statutes before making any more unfounded accusations against me." Victoria waves her clipboard through the air like a conductor directing an orchestra of hatred, her movements sharp and aggressive. "HOA warnings? Legal threats? Do you have any idea whatsoever what kind of authority we possess in this community? We can fine you $500 per day for violations, place a legal lien on your property, and ultimately have you forcibly removed from this neighborhood entirely." The threat hangs heavy in the warm afternoon air like a storm cloud, but Devon doesn't flinch or show any sign of intimidation. Years of intense corporate negotiations with Fortune 500 companies have taught him to remain absolutely calm under pressure, even when facing outright hostility and threats. Eleanor stands frozen in her own yard, her face etched with deep worry and painful internal conflict. She desperately wants to speak the truth, that Devon is genuinely one of the kindest, most generous people she's ever met. Someone who helped her repair her car when it broke down and she couldn't afford a mechanic, who quietly paid her daughter's college tuition when Elena was struggling financially and facing the heartbreak of watching her brilliant child's dreams slip away. But she's absolutely terrified of the HOA's inevitable and vindictive retribution. Victoria has already made her family's life miserable with constant petty fines and relentless scrutiny, always looking for any excuse to penalize them for even the most minor infractions. "Elena, please tell them the truth about who I am and what kind of neighbor I've been," Devon says, his voice gentle but urgent as he turns toward his friend with pleading eyes. "You know exactly who I am and how I've tried to help this community." Eleanor fidgets nervously with the hem of her nurse's uniform, glancing anxiously between Devon and the intimidating Ashfords. The crushing weight of potential consequences presses down on her shoulders like a physical burden she can barely carry. Her voice barely rises above a whisper when she finally speaks. He has helped my family tremendously when we needed it most." "Helped your family?" Bradley laughs with cruel mockery, his camera phone now recording every moment for posterity. "That's exactly what sophisticated con artists do. They systematically gain people's trust and sympathy before they execute their real plan and strike like snakes. It's literally the oldest trick in the criminal handbook." Victoria nods approvingly, her expression radiating satisfaction at her son's astute observation. "Precisely correct. He's probably already deceived several naive and trusting residents with his manipulative tactics. But we're not so easily fooled by such obvious schemes." Devon feels the burning injustice building inside him like lava in a volcano, but he maintains his composed exterior through sheer force of will developed over decades of facing adversity. This certainly isn't his first encounter with blatant prejudice and systematic racism, and he knows from painful experience that losing his temper will only validate their preconceived notions and give them exactly what they want. Deep in his heart, he understands this is just another test that life has thrown his way, the kind of racial bias that never completely disappears from society, no matter how far one climbs up the ladder of success. "I understand you might have legitimate concerns about your community," Devon says slowly and deliberately, choosing each word with the precision of a surgeon. "But I sincerely hope we can resolve this situation in a civilized and reasonable manner." "Civilized?" Victoria's laugh is sharp and bitter, like glass breaking on concrete. "There's absolutely nothing civilized about dealing with trespassers and potential criminals who threaten our peaceful community." Bradley steps closer with predatory confidence, his leather violation book open to a fresh page that he's eager to fill with accusations. As a licensed attorney specializing specifically in HOA law and community regulations, I can personally assure you that these violations carry extremely serious legal consequences. We take community protection and safety very seriously in this neighborhood. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly on the growing confrontation, creating an almost surreal atmosphere where the peaceful suburban setting contrasts sharply with the ugly reality of prejudice and abuse of power playing out on the manicured lawn. The situation escalates dramatically and unexpectedly when Victoria suddenly shouts with the fervor of someone who's just discovered a smoking gun, "Wait just 1 minute!" You're flagrantly violating Regulation 23.7. Absolutely no personal items that create aesthetic disturbance in public view areas. Bradley immediately points an accusatory finger at Devon's book and simple reading chair, as if he's uncovered evidence of a major crime. Exactly right, Mother. The community regulations clearly and unambiguously state that all outdoor furnishings and personal items require prior written HOA approval before placement. What? Devon stares at them in genuine shock and disbelief, unable to comprehend the sheer absurdity of the accusation being leveled against him. I'm reading a book in my own backyard on my own property. But that chair and book create what our regulations specifically define as a visual disturbance that clearly violates our established community aesthetic standards. Victoria performs her accusation with theatrical precision worthy of a Broadway drama. Furthermore, I have strong suspicions that book was actually stolen from our community library. The accusation hits Devon like a physical slap across the face. He stares at the woman in complete disbelief, his carefully maintained composure finally beginning to show visible cracks. You're seriously accusing me of stealing a book? Elena shakes her head vigorously from her position near the fence, her voice rising with indignation. That's completely impossible and ridiculous. Devon would never, ever do such a thing. Elena, you are directly interfering with official HOA business and community safety procedures. Bradley threatens while scribbling notes frantically in his violation book like a court reporter. This interference could result in substantial fines for obstruction of community management activities and undermining board authority. Eleanor takes an involuntary step backward, genuine fear clearly evident on her tired face. She knows all too well the Ashfords' capacity for vindictive enforcement of even the most petty and ridiculous rules. Devon stands up slowly and deliberately, his book still clutched in his hand like a lifeline to sanity. This is a completely baseless and malicious accusation. I purchased this book legally through Amazon, and I absolutely demand that you stop this harassment immediately. Harassment? Victoria's voice rises with mock indignation that would be laughable if it weren't so venomous. We're heroically protecting our community from potential criminal activity. Bradley, document absolutely everything for our comprehensive report to authorities. Bradley holds up his phone with the camera recording, capturing every moment of the confrontation for what he believes will be evidence of criminal activity. I'm documenting clear evidence of a suspected thief who's also threatening community board members and resisting lawful HOA authority. I'm not threatening anyone at all, Devon says, his voice tight with barely controlled anger that threatens to boil over. I'm simply defending myself against completely false and malicious accusations. False accusations? Victoria circles around him like a predator stalking wounded prey, her eyes gleaming with malicious satisfaction. Then you certainly won't mind if we examine that book more closely to verify its legitimate ownership, will you? Before Devon can formulate a response or protect his property, Victoria lunges forward with surprising agility and grabs the book from his hands with the aggression of a street mugger. As she flips through the pages with exaggerated theatricality, clearly performing for Bradley's camera, she suddenly exclaims with triumphant glee, "Just exactly as I suspected." She holds up a small library identification card that tumbles from between the pages like a smoking gun in a murder trial. The gathered crowd gasps collectively in shock and dismay. Elena covers her mouth with both hands, her eyes wide with disbelief. Even the HOA security guards who have been watching from a distance look genuinely surprised by this apparent bombshell evidence. "I knew it from the very beginning," Victoria shouts, with the triumphant glee of a prosecutor who's just gotten a confession from a defendant. "This book was stolen from our community library. We have an actual thief living among us." Devon stares at the library card in complete and utter bewilderment, his mind racing to understand how this is possible. That's absolutely impossible. Someone must have deliberately planted that there. I bought this book online with my own money. Next, you'll probably claim that aliens or ghosts put it there. Bradley laughs with cruel amusement, his camera still rolling to capture every moment of what he believes is a criminal's downfall. Ladies and gentlemen watching this live stream, you're witnessing a criminal caught absolutely red-handed with stolen property. The situation has completely and totally reversed in the span of mere seconds. Devon, completely innocent of any wrongdoing, now appears to every observer to be a common thief caught with irrefutable stolen property. The planted evidence seems absolutely damning to anyone who doesn't know the truth, and the crowd's murmurs grow louder and more accusatory with each passing second. Within exactly 10 minutes of Bradley's phone call, the HOA patrol team arrives on the scene like a military response unit. Two intimidatingly large men in crisp official HOA uniforms step out of their gleaming white security vehicle, their expressions stern and unforgiving as they survey Devon with obvious suspicion and barely concealed hostility. This is the individual who has committed serious and flagrant violations of multiple HOA regulations, Victoria announces with the dramatic flair of a prosecutor addressing a jury, pointing at Devon as if he's a dangerous criminal. He has illegally settled in our community without following proper board approval procedures, and now we've discovered irrefutable evidence that he's been systematically stealing books from our community library. The lead security officer, a man whose neck is thicker than most people's thighs, looks Devon up and down with undisguised skepticism and contempt. "Sir, do you possess valid HOA-approved residency documentation?" Devon produces his official purchase agreement with slightly less confidence than before, his hands not quite as steady as they were when this nightmare began. "I bought this house through completely legal means and have paid all required HOA fees in full and on time." Victoria immediately interjects before the officer can fully examine the legitimate documents, her voice sharp and authoritative. "Those papers haven't been properly authenticated by our board of directors according to established procedures. According to our comprehensive community bylaws, all real estate transactions must receive prior written HOA approval before completion. That particular bylaw has absolutely no legal standing under state and federal law," Devon counters, his frustration becoming increasingly apparent to everyone watching. Bradley steps forward with an air of supreme confidence, his law degree giving him the arrogance to speak with false authority. As a licensed attorney specializing specifically in HOA law and community regulations, I can personally assure everyone present that our community bylaws are completely legal, properly filed, and fully enforceable under current statutes. This man has now violated at least 12 different specific regulations. "Are you actually threatening us with lawsuits and legal action?" Devon asks, his voice rising slightly for the first time since this confrontation began. "Not threatening at all, simply informing you of the legal reality," Bradley replies with a cold, calculated smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "You could realistically face 5 to 10 years in state prison if convicted of theft and criminal trespassing charges." The situation spirals completely out of control when Bradley's live stream begins going viral on the HOA Facebook page and associated community groups. His inflammatory post reads, "Urgent warning. Dangerous HOA violator caught in criminal act. Evidence of illegal settlement and theft of community property. Report immediately to HOA Patrol if you see this individual anywhere in our neighborhood." Within mere minutes, the video accumulates dozens of shares from other HOA groups throughout the city and beyond, accompanied by increasingly hostile and racist comments about Devon that would make a Klan rally look moderate. Elena watches from what she hopes is a safe distance, her heart heavy with crushing guilt and paralyzing fear. She knows beyond any doubt that she should speak up and tell the truth, but the Ashfords have already fined her family $2,000 for non-compliant house paint colors and explicitly threatened additional penalties and possible legal action if she doesn't cooperate fully with their authority. "Elena!" Devon calls out desperately, his voice carrying a note of genuine desperation as he turns toward his only potential ally. "You know with absolute certainty that I've paid my HOA fees in full and am a completely legal resident of this community." Eleanor trembles visibly as she looks frantically between Devon and the intimidating Ashfords, the crushing weight of potential consequences threatening to overwhelm her completely. When she finally manages to speak, her voice is barely audible. I'm really not sure about all the procedures and requirements. Perfect! You see? Victoria claps her hands together in malicious satisfaction, her triumph evident for all to witness. Even our closest neighbors confirm that he hasn't completed the proper HOA procedures according to community standards. That tells us absolutely everything we need to know about this situation. The lead security officer examines the planted library card with growing suspicion and apparent concern. Sir, how exactly do you explain this library property being found in your personal possession? I have absolutely no idea how that got there. Devon insists desperately, but his words sound weak and unconvincing even to his own ears. Someone must have deliberately planted it to frame me. Standard criminal denial and deflection, Bradley announces smugly to his growing online audience, which has now swelled to over 800 viewers. They always claim they're being framed or set up when caught with undeniable physical evidence. The crowd of curious onlookers continues to grow steadily as neighbors emerge from their air-conditioned houses, drawn by the escalating commotion and drama unfolding on their usually quiet street. Most watch with morbid curiosity and voyeuristic entertainment, while others whisper among themselves in hushed tones, their expressions ranging from genuine concern to outright hostility and racial animosity. Devon realizes with growing horror that he's become trapped in a carefully orchestrated setup designed to destroy him. The Ashfords have planned this confrontation with meticulous attention to detail, creating an elaborate scenario where every single piece of evidence points directly to his guilt. The library card didn't magically appear in his book by cosmic coincidence. It was placed there deliberately and strategically to frame him for a crime he never committed. This entire situation is completely fabricated and orchestrated, Devon states firmly, looking directly into Bradley's camera with the dignity of an innocent man. These people have deliberately planted evidence to make me appear guilty of crimes I never committed. Fabricated? Orchestrated? Victoria's voice drips with theatrical mock offense that would make a soap opera actress envious. Are you actually calling the duly elected HOA board members liars and conspirators? That's defamation of character, which happens to be another extremely serious criminal offense. Bradley nods sagely, while continuing to record every moment, his expression radiating smug satisfaction. Now we're adding defamation and false accusations to the growing list of charges. The evidence keeps mounting exponentially against this individual. The live stream viewership climbs steadily past 1,000 people, with comments flooding in from HOA groups across the entire region and beyond. Many viewers express manufactured outrage at what they perceive as Devon's obviously criminal behavior, while others eagerly share similar stories of undesirable elements infiltrating their previously pristine communities. Elena finally finds her voice, though it trembles with genuine fear and emotional exhaustion. Devon has always been completely respectful and incredibly helpful to everyone in the neighborhood. He even helped fix my car when it broke down and I couldn't afford repairs. Helping fix cars without proper licensing? Bradley seizes on this innocent information like a prosecutor who's just discovered the murder weapon. That definitely sounds like unauthorized commercial activity, which blatantly violates Regulation 31.2 regarding unlicensed business operations. Victoria nods approvingly, her satisfaction evident to everyone watching this circus. Yet another serious violation to add to our comprehensive list. This situation gets progressively worse with every revelation. Devon watches in growing horror and disbelief as his simple act of neighborly kindness gets systematically twisted into yet another alleged crime against the community. The Ashfords have created what appears to be a perfect legal trap where every positive action becomes damning evidence of wrongdoing. I was simply being a good neighbor and helping someone in need, Devon says, his voice heavy with frustration and mounting despair. There was absolutely nothing commercial or profit-driven about helping Elena. That determination will be made exclusively by the HOA board during our comprehensive investigation, Victoria declares with the authority of a Supreme Court justice. Unauthorized services, theft of community property, illegal residency, defamation of board members. The charges are accumulating rapidly and substantially. The security officers exchange meaningful glances. clearly influenced by the overwhelming mountain of accusations and apparently irrefutable physical evidence. What began as a simple neighborly dispute has snowballed far beyond anyone's control into what appears to be a serious criminal matter requiring official intervention. "Sir, we're going to need you to accompany us immediately for comprehensive questioning and processing," the lead officer announces with finality. Devon's heart sinks like a stone as he realizes how completely and thoroughly the tables have turned against him through calculated manipulation. What started as a peaceful afternoon of quiet reading has transformed into an absolute nightmare of false accusations and carefully manufactured evidence. But somewhere deep inside his core, beneath the frustration and mounting despair, a calm resolve begins to form and strengthen. He's faced seemingly impossible challenges before throughout his remarkable life, and he's absolutely not about to let these small-minded bullies destroy everything he's worked so hard to build. Just as the intimidating security officers move forward to escort Devon away like a common criminal, the distinctive purr of a luxury Mercedes S-Class breaks through the tension like a symphony orchestra tuning up before a performance. The sleek black vehicle glides to a perfect stop directly in front of the house, and from the driver's seat emerges an impeccably dressed African-American woman in a flawlessly tailored charcoal business suit that probably costs more than most people's monthly salary. She carries a leather briefcase that practically screams expensive legal representation and serious business. "Excuse me," she calls out in a voice that commands immediate attention and respect from everyone within hearing distance. "Could someone please explain to me exactly what's happening here?" Victoria examines the newcomer from head to toe with the calculating eye of someone appraising a potential threat, taking careful note of the obviously expensive clothing, professional demeanor, and confident bearing that suggests serious authority. "Who exactly are you? We're currently handling a serious criminal matter that requires our full attention." "I am Sarah Chen, General Counsel for Wellington Tech Corporation," the woman responds with practiced authority, producing an elegant business card that she presents with the confidence of someone accustomed to opening doors with her credentials. "I'm here because someone reported to our security department that our CEO is being harassed and potentially threatened by an HOA. The air seems to freeze completely as those carefully chosen words sink into the consciousness of everyone present. The security officers pause mid-step, suddenly uncertain about their authority in this dramatically changed situation. Bradley's live stream audience, which has grown to over 1,500 viewers, suddenly finds themselves witnessing something far more significant and potentially explosive than they originally anticipated. "Your CEO?" Victoria asks, her voice already losing its previous confident edge and beginning to show the first cracks of uncertainty. Sarah Chen looks directly at Devon with genuine professional concern and barely concealed protective instincts. "Mr. Wellington, are you currently being subjected to harassment, intimidation, or threats by this HOA?" Devon nods gravely, his expression still reflecting the anger and frustration of the past hour's ordeal. "This HOA is systematically accusing me of violating regulations and committing theft without any legitimate evidence whatsoever." "Mr. Wellington," Bradley stammers, his face visibly growing pale as the implications begin to dawn on him. You're Devon Wellington from Wellington Tech Corporation?" Sarah Chen opens her expensive briefcase with practiced efficiency and retrieves a thick portfolio of official documents that bear impressive legal seals and corporate letterheads. "Devon Wellington, age 45, founder and chief executive officer of Wellington Tech Corporation. One of the 50 most successful African-American entrepreneurs in the United States, with annual company revenues exceeding $2.8 billion last year alone." Victoria takes an involuntary step backward, her precious clipboard trembling noticeably in her hands as the full magnitude of her catastrophic mistake becomes crystal clear to her. "This is a certified copy of the property ownership documentation," Sarah Chen continues with methodical precision, presenting official papers that bear multiple legal seals and notarizations. "Mr. Wellington purchased this house with cash for exactly $1.2 million 3 months ago." The security officers look at each other with growing uncertainty and concern, suddenly questioning their authority and wondering if they've made a terrible mistake in this dramatically changed situation. Elena finds her courage returning like a flood as she witnesses this stunning reversal of fortune unfolding before her eyes. I knew Devon was a genuinely good person from the very beginning. He's helped my family tremendously, even paying my daughter's entire college tuition when we were struggling financially. Paid college tuition? Sarah Chen smiles knowingly, clearly familiar with her employer's generous tendencies. That's part of the comprehensive scholarship program that Mr. Wellington personally sponsors for over 500 children throughout the city every single year. Bradley stares at his phone in growing horror and disbelief, suddenly realizing that his live stream is still broadcasting to hundreds of viewers who are now witnessing him systematically harass and humiliate a billionaire CEO. The comments section explodes with shocked reactions as viewers begin to understand the true magnitude of what they're really witnessing. Regarding the library card that mysteriously appeared in my personal book, Devon speaks for the first time with his natural authority beginning to return, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to boardrooms and high-stakes negotiations. I'm quite curious about how it managed to appear in my personal property. Sarah Chen nods knowingly and opens her state-of-the-art laptop computer, quickly accessing files that have been prepared in advance. Wellington Tech Security proactively reviewed all available neighborhood surveillance cameras. The footage clearly and unambiguously shows Mrs. Ashford approaching Mr. Wellington's property at exactly 2:30 this afternoon and deliberately placing the library card inside his book. "What? That's absolutely impossible!" Victoria shouts desperately, her voice cracking with panic as her world begins to crumble around her. "I didn't do anything wrong. The HOA has every legal right to investigate potential violations. Video surveillance technology doesn't lie or have personal motivations." Sarah Chen responds calmly, turning the laptop screen toward the gathered crowd so everyone can witness the truth. The high-definition footage shows Victoria clearly and unmistakably sneaking onto Devon's property and carefully inserting the library card into his book while he was briefly inside his house. The crowd gasps collectively as they witness the deliberate frame-up attempt unfolding in undeniable detail. The situation has completely and totally reversed in a matter of minutes. The accusers have definitively become the accused. Elena steps forward with newfound confidence and righteous indignation, her voice stronger than it's been in years. "The HOA fined me $2,000 for supposedly having the wrong color paint on my house, but Devon helped me pay that ridiculous fine. He also sponsored my daughter's entire education without expecting anything in return." "Sponsored education?" Sarah Chen's smile grows wider with obvious pride in her employer. "Mr. Wellington's private foundation has provided over $50 million in educational scholarships to underprivileged families throughout the region over the past decade." Bradley looks at his phone screen in absolute panic and terror, watching the live stream comments flood in with overwhelming support for Devon, while unanimously condemning the Ashfords' reprehensible behavior. And concerning the legal aspects of this situation, Devon finally speaks with the quiet but unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to boardrooms and high-stakes negotiations with Fortune 500 companies. "I'm quite interested in pursuing appropriate charges against individuals who have engaged in systematic harassment, deliberate evidence tampering, and calculated defamation." Victoria and Bradley exchange terrified glances as they realize the full scope of their predicament and the potential consequences of their actions. They haven't just harassed an ordinary resident. They've publicly humiliated and attempted to frame one of the most powerful business leaders in the entire region. Sarah Chen continues her methodical dismantling of their fraudulent case with the precision of a skilled surgeon. Mr. Wellington's HOA fees were paid in full 3 months ago, along with a voluntary additional contribution of $50,000 to the Community Improvement Fund that he made out of goodwill. The security officers step away from Devon, clearly recognizing that they've been manipulated into participating in the harassment of a completely innocent man who also happens to be one of the most influential people in the city. Furthermore, Sarah Chen adds with obvious satisfaction, several other HOA members have already contacted our legal department expressing their full support for Mr. Wellington and formally requesting that Mrs. Ashford and Mr. Bradley resign from their positions immediately. Bradley stares at his phone screen with mounting horror and disbelief as the live stream continues broadcasting their complete humiliation to an ever-growing audience that has now swelled beyond 2,000 viewers. The comments section has exploded into absolute chaos, with thousands of responses flooding in, and absolutely none of them are favorable to the Ashfords. Oh my God! They just systematically harassed a billionaire CEO. This is exactly why everyone in America hates HOAs and their abuse of power. Wellington Tech is an absolutely amazing company. Their CEO deserves so much better than this treatment. Bradley Ashford should lose his law license immediately for this completely unprofessional behavior. Karma is absolutely real. Victoria and Bradley got exactly what they deserved. This is the most satisfying justice porn I've ever witnessed in my entire life. Turn it off! Turn off that damn live stream immediately! Victoria shrieks desperately, but the catastrophic damage has already been done beyond any hope of repair. The video has been downloaded and shared hundreds of times across various anti-HOA abuse groups on social media platforms throughout the country. Sarah Chen opens a second laptop computer and displays real-time social media monitoring that shows the explosive growth of the story. Within exactly 15 minutes, hashtags Justice for Devon Wellington and HOA Abuse have begun trending nationally on Twitter with over 50,000 posts from across the entire country. Devon regards the Ashfords with the cold, calculated authority that he typically reserves for dealing with underperforming executives or hostile corporate takeovers, the same expression that has made seasoned business veterans tremble in boardrooms. You two have deliberately and systematically abused your HOA positions to harass me based purely on racial prejudice, falsely accused me of multiple serious crimes, and attempted to frame me with planted evidence. What exactly do you propose to do about this situation now? Victoria drops to her knees on the hard pavement, her expensive designer clothing crumpling and becoming soiled as desperation completely overtakes her former pride and arrogance. Mr. Wellington, please find it in your heart to forgive us. We honestly thought we were protecting our community. We'll do absolutely anything to make this right. Protecting your community from what exactly? Devon's voice carries the weight of decades of facing similar prejudice and systematic racism. If I were just an ordinary African-American man instead of a billionaire CEO, would you still be apologizing right now? Or would you continue with your harassment? Bradley also falls to his knees beside his mother, his precious violation book forgotten and abandoned in the dirt like a discarded weapon. Tears stream down his face as the full magnitude of his professional destruction becomes clear. Mr. Wellington, we'll remove all the videos immediately, resign from the HOA board permanently, and post comprehensive public apologies on every social media platform. Public apologies on social media. Sarah Chen's laugh is sharp and professional, carrying the authority of someone who understands the legal system. Do you honestly think that systematic abuse of power and racially motivated harassment can be easily remedied with simple social media posts? Elena approaches Devon with tears streaming down her face, her voice heavy with guilt and regret. Devon, I'm so deeply sorry I didn't defend you from the very beginning. I was absolutely terrified they would retaliate against my family even more severely. Devon nods with genuine understanding and compassion, his anger toward the Ashfords not extending to someone who was also their victim. I don't blame you at all, Elena. This situation perfectly illustrates the fundamental problem with HOA systems. They create cultures of fear and intimidation to control ordinary people who just want to live peacefully. The situation continues developing rapidly across multiple social media platforms as the story spreads like wildfire. Anti-HOA abuse groups throughout the country have shared the story thousands of times, accompanied by the security camera footage showing the complete truth about Victoria's evidence-planting scheme. Sarah Chen reads from her phone with obvious professional satisfaction. Mr. Wellington, 127 other HOA members in this specific community have already emailed our legal department expressing their full support for you and demanding that Victoria and Bradley resign immediately from all positions. Victoria looks around desperately as neighbors continue emerging from their houses. many of them approaching Devon with expressions of genuine support and heartfelt apologies for the treatment he received from their elected representatives. "Please, don't let this go to court," Victoria pleads frantically, her voice cracking with desperation. "Our reputation will be completely destroyed forever. I could lose my house because of all the illegal fines I've imposed over the years. Now you're suddenly concerned about consequences and reputation?" Devon observes coolly, his voice carrying the measured tone of a judge delivering a verdict. "When you were systematically abusing your HOA authority to harass me, did you take even a moment to consider the potential consequences of your actions?" Bradley's tears mix with dirt and grass stains on his face as he realizes the full magnitude of his professional and personal destruction. "My entire legal career is over. The State Bar Association will launch a full investigation into my conduct based on this live stream evidence." Devon's phone rings constantly as other CEOs and business leaders call to express solidarity and support. Civil rights organizations request partnerships in comprehensive HOA reform efforts, and dozens of journalists seek exclusive interviews about systematic abuse within homeowners associations across the country. The crowd of supporters continues growing steadily as word spreads throughout the neighborhood and beyond. Many residents approach Devon to share their own painful stories of HOA harassment and excessive fines, creating an impromptu support rally that transforms the confrontation into a community awakening. "Here's exactly what's going to happen," Devon finally announces after carefully considering his options and consulting silently with Sarah Chen. "You have two choices available to you, and you need to decide immediately. First option, we proceed directly to court, where I will sue both of you for harassment, systematic abuse of power, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Given the clear video evidence and thousands of witnesses via live stream, you would likely face millions of dollars in damages and permanent bans from serving on any HOA boards anywhere in the country." Victoria and Bradley look at each other with absolute terror, fully understanding that such consequences would completely destroy their lives and leave them financially ruined. "Second option," Devon continues with the measured authority of someone accustomed to high-stakes negotiations. "You will resign from all HOA positions immediately and permanently. Create comprehensive public apology video, acknowledging that you systematically abused your power due to racial prejudice and personal bias, and participate actively in the HOA reform program that Wellington Tech will sponsor to prevent similar harassment from occurring in other communities throughout the region." "We choose the second option without any hesitation whatsoever." Both Ashfords respond simultaneously, their voices overlapping in their desperation to avoid complete destruction. Elena smiles broadly for the first time in years, feeling genuine freedom from HOA intimidation and the possibility of a community where people treat each other with basic human dignity. 1 week later, Devon sits peacefully in the same comfortable chair in his backyard, reading the same well-worn copy of Advanced Corporate Strategy. The afternoon sun filters through the ancient oak trees exactly as before, but the atmosphere has been completely transformed. Peace has returned to his quiet sanctuary, though it now carries much deeper meaning and represents something far more significant than personal tranquility. Elena approaches with 2 steaming cups of freshly brewed coffee, her face glowing with genuine happiness and relief that she hasn't felt in years. "Devon, my daughter just received her official acceptance letter to Harvard University thanks to the scholarship from your foundation." Devon sets down his book and accepts the coffee with a warm, genuine smile that reflects his satisfaction with how events have unfolded. That's exactly what she deserves to achieve through her hard work and intelligence. Talent and potential don't discriminate based on skin color or economic background. The Ashfords' public apology video has gone viral with over 5 million views across multiple social media platforms. In the comprehensive video, they openly acknowledge systematically abusing their HOA authority due to racial prejudice and personal bias, and they commit to supporting comprehensive reforms throughout the HOA system. Many viewers have praised Devon for choosing rehabilitation and systematic change over personal revenge, seeing it as genuine leadership and wisdom in action. Do you ever regret not taking them to court and making them pay financially? Elena asks with curiosity, settling into a nearby chair that Devon had purchased for their regular coffee conversations. Devon shakes his head thoughtfully, his expression reflecting years of hard-won wisdom. Personal revenge was never the objective. Systematic change and protecting others was always the real goal. If we can transform abusive HOA practices to protect vulnerable residents throughout the country, that represents a much greater victory than any financial settlement could ever provide. Devon's remarkable story has inspired a nationwide movement for HOA reform and accountability that has captured the attention of legislators and civil rights organizations. Wellington Tech has received thousands of emails from residents who have been subjected to similar HOA harassment and abuse, and Devon has decided to sponsor a comprehensive free legal defense fund to help them fight back against systematic oppression. Sarah Chen arrives with her daily briefing, carrying excellent news that continues to validate their approach. Mr. Wellington, 127 HOAs across the country have contacted us requesting to participate in our reform and diversity training programs. Money and financial success isn't the only measure of true accomplishment. Devon reflects aloud, his voice carrying the wisdom of someone who has achieved both material success and personal fulfillment. The ability to reform unjust systems and protect people from institutional abuse. That's what really matters in life and creates lasting positive change. The Wellington Tech HOA Reform Program has attracted serious congressional attention, with several representatives expressing genuine interest in federal legislation to prevent HOA abuse and protect residents' rights. Victoria and Bradley have become the program's first graduates, and remarkably, they've begun advocating passionately for HOA reform to prevent others from making their mistakes and causing similar harm. Devon looks at his book, then gazes up at the clear blue sky above, feeling a sense of peace that comes from knowing he's used his position and resources to create positive change. Perhaps the best business strategy of all is building a world where power is consistently used to protect people rather than oppress them. Elena nods with deep appreciation and understanding, her voice reflecting the gratitude of someone whose life has been genuinely transformed. You've proven conclusively that real power isn't about punishing enemies or seeking revenge. It's about reforming broken systems to protect those who can't protect themselves. Stories like this serve as much more than simple entertainment. They remind us of the tremendous power that comes with using privilege and position to create positive social change that extends far beyond personal benefit. True leadership means transforming opposition and conflict into opportunities for systematic improvement that benefit society as a whole. The peaceful garden setting, the gentle conversation between friends, and the knowledge that justice has not only prevailed, but created lasting positive change, create a sense of completion and genuine hope for the future. Devon has not only successfully defended himself, but has sparked a movement that will protect countless others from similar harassment and abuse. His remarkable journey from harassment victim to catalyst for nationwide social reform demonstrates conclusively that the highest and most noble use of power is not personal revenge or retaliation, but systematic change that benefits society as a whole and protects the most vulnerable members of our communities. You've just witnessed the true power of confronting systematic abuse through intelligence, wisdom, and long-term vision that extends far beyond personal interests. Devon Wellington didn't just protect himself from harassment, he created a nationwide reform movement that will protect countless others from HOA abuse and systematic oppression for years to come. Do you have the courage and determination to stand up against abuse of power when you witness it happening in your own community? Remember that real strength and lasting impact isn't found in retaliation or revenge, but in the ability to reform unjust systems and protect those who can't protect themselves from institutional oppression. Share this inspiring story if you believe that everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, regardless of their race, economic status, or social position. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories about justice, systematic change, and the triumph of human dignity over prejudice and abuse. Who knows? Maybe you also have the power and opportunity to create positive change that the world desperately needs right now. Your voice and actions might be exactly what's needed to reform broken systems and protect vulnerable people in your own community. Subscribe now to see more inspiring stories about overcoming injustice, reforming broken systems, and creating lasting positive change that makes the world a better place for everyone.